Entertainment became rescue. He risked his life for a shattered alien girl. Best HFY Stories, The Son of Aradax, 7 barely peeked over the jagged horizon, painting the dusty plains in orange and violet. The small asteroid town of Cinder's Rest lay quiet, except for the occasional whine of grav bikes racing along the canyon tracks. In this part of the frontier, law was more of a suggestion than a rule, and survival depended on cleverness, speed, and a little bit of luck. Jace Corin leaned against the side of his old freighter, the Wandering Star, watching the crowd gather for the day's entertainment. He was a drifter, a man who had once chased bounties but had grown tired of the constant danger. Now, he lived on the edge of performance and survival, taking jobs that let him show skill and charm without putting a price on his life. Today, like most days, he was there to perform. Jace's freighter was battered, scratched, with years of travel through asteroid fields and narrow escapes from space storms. Its engines hummed faintly as he checked the hover controls, making sure everything was ready. The crowd would expect a show, a race across the canyon cliffs in hover bikes with stunts and speed that tested even the most skilled riders. Jace had learned long ago that on the frontier, entertainment often paid better than bounty hunting. He straightened his jacket and pulled on his gloves. "Let's see if these folks are ready for a real ride," he muttered to himself, flashing a small grin. The townspeople began to gather, their chatter mixing with the distant rumble of engines. Traders, miners, and wanderers filled the sandy streets. Children ran along the edges of the track, pointing excitedly at the racers lined up. Jace noticed them, and for a brief moment he felt a strange sense of warmth. Moments like these reminded him why he stayed in places like Cinder's Rest, the simplicity, the small joys amidst the harsh frontier. But the desert held more than just sand and sun. Hidden in the shadows of a nearby canyon, something unusual moved. It was faint, almost imperceptible, a flicker of light that did not belong. Jace noticed it only because he was alert, always watching. And in the frontier, noticing strange things often meant the difference between life and death. The signal led him down a narrow path away from the crowd. As he moved closer, the light became clearer. A faint hum vibrated through the rocks, almost like music. There, lying amidst the jagged stones, was a shattered alien girl. Her skin glowed softly in shades of blue and violet, and her eyes, half closed, flickered with strange energy. Pieces of her body seemed to shimmer with tiny circuits, almost as if she were a living star mixed with technology. Jace's hand instinctively went to the strap of his utility belt. He was used to danger, but this was something else entirely. No gun, no knife, this was not a threat. She was fragile, almost human, yet completely alien. He knelt beside her, careful not to touch the glowing fragments that seemed to float around her body. "Hey, can you hear me?" he asked softly. His voice echoed slightly in the canyon. The girl stirred, a faint hum answering him. Her voice was weak, melodic, like wind chimes. "Help?" "Me," Jace's heart skipped a beat. She was asking for help, not in the language of words he understood, but through sound and feeling. There was a message in the energy she emitted, something urgent, something alive. He carefully lifted her, cradling her as best he could. She was light, almost like carrying a bundle of glowing silk. Jace knew the townspeople would not understand her. Some might even panic, but he could not leave her there. The canyon could not hide her forever. Back at the Wandering Star, he laid her on the cushioned floor of the cargo bay. The freighter was old, but it had a life support system built for emergencies. He connected a small power relay to her core, watching as the soft light around her began to stabilize. She opened her eyes fully now, and Jace was struck by their depth. They were like twin galaxies, vast, mysterious, and full of untold stories. She spoke again, this time in a broken mixture of clicks and musical tones. Somehow, though, he could understand the meaning. It was a strange feeling, as if the frontier itself had given him temporary insight. "They are coming," she whispered. Jace frowned. "Who's coming?" She shook her head, eyes flickering with colors he could not name. Then a small holographic device on her wrist lit up, projecting fragments of star maps and symbols into the air. Some of the symbols looked like coordinates. Others resembled strange alien writing. He could not read it all, but one thing was clear. She was from somewhere far beyond the Andromeda Belt, and she had information that others wanted. The freighter shuddered lightly as Jace started the engines. He knew he had a choice: leave the asteroid and risk pursuit, or stay and blend into the quiet town. But the moment he saw the determination in the girl's eyes, he knew he could not turn back. The journey began slowly. Lyra, he decided to call her that, after the constellation she resembled, leaned against the side of the freighter, her energy flickering softly as they moved through the asteroid canyons. Jace piloted carefully, avoiding the main paths to avoid attention. "Who do you fear?" he asked gently. "The Syndicate," she whispered. The name carried weight, though he did not know it yet. Whatever it was dangerous, far beyond the petty gangs and smugglers he had encountered. He looked at her carefully. "Then we'll be careful. We'll get you somewhere safe." Lyra's light pulsed in what seemed like gratitude, and for the first time since he had taken up drifting and racing, Jace felt the weight of responsibility in a new way. He was not just drifting anymore. He had a mission, one that would lead him to the farthest edges of the frontier and beyond. As they left Cinder's Rest behind, the asteroid town shrinking into a dot of sand and metal in the distance, Jace thought about what this meant. He had always thrived on entertainment, on daring stunts and clever escapes. But now, the frontier had given him a new role: protector, guide, and perhaps even hero. The stars ahead were bright and infinite, each one a possibility, each one a mystery. Somewhere out there, Lyra's people awaited, or perhaps something even stranger. The journey would not be easy. The Syndicate, whatever it was already on their trail, and the maps projected from Lyra's core promised challenges that no frontier rider had ever faced. Yet, for the first time in a long while, Jace felt alive in a way that racing through canyons or performing tricks in front of cheering crowds never gave him. He had a purpose beyond survival, beyond money. "Hold on tight, Lyra," he said, adjusting the freighter's controls. "The frontier's bigger than you think, and it's about to get a lot more interesting." As the freighter lifted off, gliding through the glittering asteroid belt, a faint pulse of light followed them. Someone, or something, had noticed. The adventure had begun. The canyon sun disappeared behind the horizon, and the stars stretched infinitely ahead, as if daring Jace and Lyra to chase the unknown together. The stars stretched endlessly outside the freighter's cockpit, each one a pinprick of cold light in the darkness. Jace Korn kept his hands steady on the controls, his eyes flicking between the navigation screen and the soft glow of Lyra's energy core. She floated quietly on the cushioned bench, her luminous skin pulsing gently with the rhythm of some inner heartbeat. "You're tired," Jace said softly, though he did not expect her to answer. Lyra stirred, her eyes opening slowly. The colors inside them shifted, as if reflecting distant galaxies. She made a series of musical tones, each one delicate and strange, but Jace felt the meaning clearly. "Rest, but not long. We must move." He nodded. "Rest, then. But we keep moving soon. There's too much out there to stay in one place." Jace set the freighter on a quiet path between two asteroid clusters. The ship hummed, barely making a sound as it glided through the void. The frontier was not lawless in every way. Scanners and patrols were everywhere, and someone, or something, was already searching for Lyra. As the hours passed, Lyra's energy core began to project faint images. Jace watched in fascination as fragments of alien landscapes flickered in the air. Towering crystal forests, cities floating above luminous oceans, and massive creatures that glowed with soft light. These were memories, or perhaps warnings, from a world long destroyed. "She's showing me places," Jace whispered. "Your people, you lost them?" Lyra's eyes dimmed slightly, then brightened again. She could not speak words he would understand easily, but the feelings were clear: loss, hope, and a warning. Someone had caused the destruction of her world, and she carried a piece of it within her. The freighter passed a bright gas giant, its rings sparkling like diamond dust. Jace adjusted the ship's shields to pass safely through the field of floating rocks. It was dangerous, but it was faster than following the main trade lanes. As they drifted through the sparkling clouds of debris, a small alert beeped on the dashboard. "Not good," Jace muttered. A scanner had picked up a faint energy signature, moving fast toward their location. It was unfamiliar, unlike any patrol ship or freighter he had seen. Whoever, or whatever, was coming. It was not friendly. Lyra's core glowed brighter as she floated to the navigation console. She placed her hand gently on the holographic star map, and the map responded, highlighting a path through a nearby cluster of asteroids. It was risky, full of narrow passages and sudden gravitational shifts, but it was the only way to evade the approaching energy signature. Jace didn't hesitate. He steered the freighter carefully, weaving between the massive rocks. The ship shuddered and groaned as it twisted through the narrow paths. The energy signature followed, persistent and precise, but the asteroid slowed it down. Jace felt a thrill in his chest. This was the frontier, the dangerous, unknown frontier, and he was alive in it. "You're smart," he said to Lyra, glancing at her glowing eyes. Looks like you're helping me more than I'm helping you. She responded with a soft chime-like sound, almost like a laugh. The freighter twisted again, narrowly avoiding a spinning asteroid, and the pursuer faltered behind them. For a moment, silence returned to the void. Hours turned into days. Jace kept the freighter on a steady course toward the coordinates Lyra's core had revealed. She had begun to recover slowly, her movements becoming more confident. She could even manipulate small pieces of her energy, projecting light paths to guide the freighter. The bond between them grew, not through words, but through trust and shared focus. "You'll have to teach me to read these stars someday," Lyra said in her melodic tones, the first words he could understand more clearly. Jace smiled, feeling warmth he had not felt in a long time. "I'll teach you everything I know," he said. "The frontier has its secrets, but it has a way of rewarding the brave." During their travel, Jace learned more about Lyra. Her memories were fragmented, showing bits of her people's culture, cities of light, machines that grew like plants, and a society that valued knowledge above all. She was the last fragment, carrying the history of her civilization in a bioluminescent memory core embedded in her chest. One evening, as the freighter floated near a field of distant stars, a strange phenomenon appeared. Tiny motes of light began swirling around them, forming shifting patterns that danced in the void. Lyra's core pulsed in recognition. She rose slowly, floating above the deck, and reached toward the lights. "They are calling, guiding, warning," she said. Jace watched in awe as the motes coalesced into shapes, maps, symbols, and glimpses of places far beyond the Andromeda Belt. His heart raced. "These are directions," he said, "to somewhere important. Somewhere you need to go." Lyra nodded, her glowing eyes flickering. The path was clear, but the journey would be difficult. There were hazards in the uncharted regions, and the Syndicate, whatever it was, would not give up easily. Jace felt a sense of responsibility he had never known. He had drifted from planet to planet, performing stunts and running from danger, but now he had a purpose that mattered. Protecting Lyra, helping her people, and uncovering the truth became more important than any prize or thrill he had ever sought. The freighter moved deeper into uncharted space. Massive nebulas stretched like clouds of color and light, their gravity wells twisting space around them. Jace navigated carefully, using Lyra's projections as guidance. Each step forward brought them closer to the sanctuary hidden among the stars, but the Syndicate was patient. Jace had learned that in the frontier threats were rarely immediate. They waited, striking when least expected, and their signature, cold and precise, had not disappeared from his scanners. He knew they were following, studying, planning. "Whatever they are, we can handle them," Jace said aloud, more to convince himself than Lyra. She responded with a soft glow, a quiet reassurance. He smiled, realizing that their bond was becoming stronger, built on trust and shared determination. Days passed. Lyra's core continued to unlock fragments of memory, showing glimpses of her lost civilization and hints of dangers that had destroyed it. The more they traveled, the more Jace realized how much was at stake. This was not just a rescue. It was a mission that could shape the future. One night, as they approached the coordinates projected from Lyra's core, the freighter shivered under a sudden gravitational pulse. The stars outside twisted unnaturally, and a faint hum filled the cockpit. Lyra's energy flared brightly, her body floating above the deck as she interfaced with the freighter's systems. "They are close, very close," she said, her voice urgent. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the ship. Jace gripped the controls, heart pounding. "Then we move fast. No hesitation." The freighter surged forward, weaving through shimmering clouds of energy. Lyra's projections guided them, creating safe paths through the chaotic stellar currents. The stars themselves seemed alive, bending around the freighter, as if acknowledging their journey. Hours later, they emerged into a quiet sector, far from the prying sensors of the Syndicate. Jace exhaled, feeling a rare sense of relief. Lyra floated back down, her glow softening as she drifted onto the bench. "We made it. For now," he said, looking at the distant stars. "But this is just the beginning." Lyra reached out and touched his hand lightly. Her energy pulsed gently, conveying gratitude, trust, and hope. Jace felt a warmth in his chest he could not explain. This journey, which had begun as an act of chance, had become something much bigger, a mission, a promise, and a bond that neither of them would forget. As the freighter drifted silently among the stars, the coordinates from Lyra's core glowed softly. The sanctuary awaited, but the path ahead would be filled with puzzles, challenges, and wonders no one had ever seen. And Jace, for the first time in his drifting life, felt ready to face them all. The frontier stretched endlessly around them, dark and bright, empty and full of mystery. And somewhere ahead, in the heart of uncharted space, awaited the future of Lyra's people and the adventure that would change everything. The freighter drifted deeper into the uncharted regions of space, where stars were sparse and the darkness seemed heavier than usual. Jace Corrin tightened his grip on the controls, eyes scanning the navigation screen. Ahead lay the Gauntlet Nebula, a massive cloud of swirling gases, magnetic storms, and floating crystal-like asteroids that twisted unpredictably. No freighter had crossed it without assistance, and few travelers returned at all. Lyra floated in the center of the cockpit, her glowing skin casting soft colors across the walls. Her energy pulses mirrored the turbulence outside, as if she were reading the nebula and communicating with it. Jace had learned to trust her instincts. They were as sharp as any scanner or navigational system he had ever used. "This is going to be tricky," he said aloud, though the freighter offered no reply. "The nebula moves, almost alive. We'll need you to guide me." Lyra nodded, her voice a soft series of chimes. Jace adjusted the freighter's engines and shields, preparing for the turbulence that awaited them. As they entered the nebula, colors and light bent around them, creating dazzling but disorienting visuals. The freighter shivered and groaned as magnetic currents buffeted its hull. The first challenge appeared almost immediately, a massive field of crystal asteroids spinning like dancers frozen in mid-motion. Some were small, glittering like shards of glass. Others were enormous, casting shadows across the freighter's path. Jace maneuvered carefully, following the glowing lines that Lyra projected through the cockpit air. "You have to trust me," she said in her melodic tone. "I can. Guide us." "I do," he replied. "Just don't make me crash." A small smile tugged at his lips, though tension ran through his body. With every turn, Lyra's energy flared brighter, and the freighter responded to subtle signals she emitted. They twisted through the asteroid field, dodging spinning shards and sudden shifts in gravity. Jace felt exhilaration mixed with fear. This was more dangerous than any canyon stunt he had ever performed. Hours passed. The freighter moved steadily, but the nebula grew thicker, and strange energy currents began to affect their instruments. Sensors flickered, lights dimmed, and the usual hum of the engines wavered. Jace realized that relying solely on technology would not be enough. He glanced at Lyra. "We'll have to navigate by instinct. You, me, and the stars." Lyra's glow pulsed in agreement. She reached out, touching the freighter's control panel lightly. Her energy intertwined with the ship's systems, stabilizing the engines in ways Jace had never thought possible. It was as if she were part of the freighter itself, a living guide through the chaos. Suddenly, a soft vibration ran through the ship. Jace leaned forward, studying the screen. A faint red blip appeared on the sensors, moving in a straight line toward them. It was small but fast, some kind of tracker. The syndicate, he realized, had not given up. "They found us," he muttered. Lyra's core flared, sending out pulses of light that projected a maze of paths through the nebula. "We can confuse them," she said. Jace followed her guidance, twisting the freighter through narrow corridors of energy and crystal. The tracker pursued, but every turn Lyra projected sent it off in the wrong direction. Slowly, carefully, they distanced themselves from the pursuer without confrontation. Hours turned into a full day as they navigated the nebula. Jace marveled at Lyra's ability to manipulate energy fields to their advantage. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. He realized that she was more than just a passenger. She was a key to surviving the unknown. During a brief pause in a calm section of the nebula, Jace floated toward Lyra. "I need to know more about what you're showing me," he said. "These visions, the maps, your people. Tell me." Lyra's eyes dimmed as she projected a series of holograms. She showed him images of her world before its destruction, cities that floated above glowing oceans, towers of crystal that grew like trees, and people who could manipulate light as easily as breathing. "We valued knowledge above all. But greed, hubris, destroyed it," she said. Jace listened carefully, feeling the weight of her words. "And now you're carrying it all," he said softly. "That's a lot of responsibility." Lyra's glow pulsed gently. She floated closer to him, almost as if to reassure him. "We must survive," she said, each word like a musical note. The freighter continued its journey. Soon, the nebula's challenges grew greater. Magnetic storms twisted the freighter unpredictably, and crystal spikes suddenly protruded from energy currents blocking paths they had relied on. Jace's skill and quick thinking were tested like never before. He relied not only on Lyra's guidance, but on every ounce of instinct he had built from years of drifting and racing through the frontier. At one point, a massive gravitational wave nearly pushed the freighter off course. Jace fought to stabilize the engines while Lyra projected a glowing path ahead, cutting through the chaos. Together they moved in perfect coordination, the freighter dancing like a leaf in a storm. When they finally passed through the thickest part of the nebula, Jace exhaled, feeling his muscles relax. Lyra's glow softened, signaling that she had recovered from the effort as well. They had made it through the first stage of the gauntlet, but the journey was not over. Ahead lay the shimmering fields, vast expanses of energy currents that could bend reality itself. Jace studied the maps Lyra projected. They twisted and shifted constantly, a puzzle of impossible paths. Mistakes could leave them trapped forever, floating in areas where the stars disappeared entirely. Lyra reached toward the map, manipulating the glowing symbols. "We must think together," she said. "Only then the path is clear." Jace nodded. "Okay, let's do it." Hours turned into days as they studied the projections, plotting a safe course through the shimmering fields. Jace learned to read Lyra's pulses, the subtle changes in her glow that indicated danger or safety. He began to feel almost as if they were two minds working as one, navigating the unknown frontier. Finally, they reached a calmer area of space. Jace looked at the freighter's sensors. Everything was stable, no threats detected, the nebula behind them fading into distant starlight. He let himself relax for the first time in days. Lyra floated toward him, her glow bright but calm. "We are close," she said. "The sanctuary is near." "But puzzles?" Jace smiled, feeling pride and relief. "We've made it this far. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." The freighter moved into open space, the stars shining more brightly than before. The nebula was behind them, but the journey ahead promised wonders and challenges greater than anything they had seen. Lyra's core pulsed with energy, projecting the final coordinates, the location of the hidden sanctuary where her people might still exist, or where their legacy could be restored. Jace felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. He had started as a drifter, a man living on thrills and entertainment, but now he was part of something bigger, a mission that could shape the future. Protecting Lyra, helping her people, navigating the unknown frontier, it was a role he had never expected to embrace. The freighter glided silently through space, carrying them toward the mysteries of the cosmos. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of light, darkness, and the promise of discovery. And somewhere ahead, beyond the nebula and the shimmering fields, awaited the sanctuary, the next step in a journey that would test courage, trust, and ingenuity in ways the frontier had never seen. As Jace watched Lyra's glowing form float gently in the freighter's cabin, he felt a sense of hope he had never known. The frontier was wide, full of danger and mystery, but with Lyra by his side, he was ready to face anything. The cosmic gauntlet was behind them, but the greatest adventure was still ahead. And Jace, for the first time in his drifting life, felt truly alive. The freighter glided into a calm, quiet region of space. No clouds of nebula swirled here, no shifting asteroids blocked the way, only distant stars sparkled like scattered gems across the dark canvas. Jace Corin tightened his hands on the controls, eyes fixed on the final coordinates projected by Lyra's glowing core. "They are here," Lyra whispered, her voice soft but full of meaning. Her glow pulsed gently, a beacon guiding them to a hidden sanctuary. Jace could feel the weight of anticipation pressing on him. After days of chasing maps, dodging dangers, and navigating the gauntlet nebula, they were finally here. The freighter emerged from the void into a breathtaking sight. A planet suspended in orbit around two suns, its surface covered in crystal forests that shimmered with soft rainbow light. Rivers of glowing liquid weaved between towering crystalline spires, and floating structures hovered gently above the land, reflecting the sunlight in dazzling patterns. This is incredible," Jace breathed, leaning forward. Even for someone who had seen the wonders of the frontier, this world felt almost impossible. Lyra floated toward the viewport, her glow blending with the planet's shimmer. "Home, or almost home," she said, her melodic tones carrying both hope and sorrow. Her energy pulsed faster as she hovered closer to the planet. Jace guided the freighter down slowly, careful to avoid the floating crystal towers and rivers of light. The ship touched down gently on a flat plateau near the center of the glowing landscape. Outside, the air shimmered with soft energy currents, but it was breathable, warm, and inviting. Lyra stepped off the freighter first, her tiny feet leaving faint glowing marks on the crystalline surface. Jace followed, taking in the beauty of the place. It was alive with energy, not in the threatening way of the nebula or the shimmering fields, but in a gentle, welcoming rhythm. It seemed to respond to Lyra's presence, as if the planet itself recognized her. Your people, Jace began carefully. Are they here? Lyra shook her head slightly. Not yet. Only fragments survive. Her voice was tinged with sadness, but also determination. I carry memory. The memory core in her chest glowed brightly, projecting holographic images above her. Jace watched in awe as cities rebuilt themselves from light, forests growing from nothing, and people forming out of energy, moving gracefully in patterns that seemed both familiar and alien. He realized the core did not just store information. It could recreate life in some form, a map of the past that could guide the future. You can bring them back? He asked, unable to hide the awe in his voice. Lyra nodded slowly. Not fully, but enough. They can begin again. We can survive. Jace felt a swell of respect for her. She was not just an alien girl lost in the frontier. She was a living key to a civilization. The weight of responsibility she carried would have crushed anyone else, but she stood tall, glowing, and determined. They moved toward the center of the sanctuary, where the holographic projections of Lyra's people swirled above a circular crystal platform. As Lyra touched the platform, her energy expanded outward, connecting with the projections. The images of her civilization solidified, creating faint silhouettes that moved like echoes of life. Jace watched silently, feeling a sense of wonder he had never known. It was like seeing history and the future happen at the same time. Lyra's energy danced with the projections, linking memory and life in a delicate balance. Suddenly, a pulse of light shot out from her core, and the sanctuary responded. Crystals on the ground reflected the glow, creating beams of light that stretched into the sky. The air hummed softly, a melody of life itself. For a moment, Jace felt the entire planet breathe. They are listening, Lyra whispered. Her glow brightened, almost dazzling. We begin. As the energy flowed, faint forms emerged from the holograms, growing into figures made of light. They resembled her people, tall and graceful, their bodies shimmering with the same bioluminescent energy as Lyra. Though incomplete, they moved, learned, and recognized her presence. They were fragments, but alive enough to carry on. Jay stepped closer, careful not to disrupt the delicate process. You've done it, he said softly. Lyra's glow softened and she floated down beside him. We can rebuild, she said. Not like before, but better. Jace nodded. He looked out across the glowing landscape, seeing the silhouettes of her people moving, exploring, and learning. The sanctuary had become a living symbol of hope, a place where the past and future met. For the first time, he felt the frontier differently. Not as a place of danger, but as a place of possibility. The same world that had tested him with nebulous storms and cosmic puzzles now offered wonder and renewal. Hours passed as Lyra continued to guide the sanctuary. Jace helped where he could, adjusting energy flows and keeping the freighter ready in case they needed to leave quickly. Despite all the danger they had faced, the planet itself seemed protective, as if it wanted to nurture life rather than destroy it. By the end of the day, the light forms of Lyra's people had grown stronger. They moved with more confidence, exploring the sanctuary, touching the crystal rivers, and interacting with the environment. Each one was incomplete, yet full of potential. Lyra's energy pulsed gently with theirs, a silent guide and protector. Jay stood beside her, feeling a mix of awe and satisfaction. He had come here chasing adventure, entertainment, and thrill, but now he had witnessed something far greater than any stunt or race. He had helped bring life back to a lost civilization. Looks like we made a difference, he said quietly.
Lyra's glow flickered like a smile.
Together, you helped. For a moment, they stood in silence, watching the silhouettes move through the glowing landscape. Jace realized that the frontier was never just about danger or survival. It was about connection, courage, and hope, the things he had learned from this journey with Lyra. As night fell on the planet, the twin suns set, casting long shadows across the crystal plains. The sanctuary glowed softly in response, illuminating the silhouettes of Lyra's people like stars come to life. The entire planet seemed alive, a testament to the power of memory, hope, and the courage to act. Lyra turned to Jace, her glow softening to a gentle blue. Now will grow. Learn. Live. Jace nodded. And when they do, the frontier will have something new. Something better. The freighter rested nearby, engines off, bathed in the soft light of the sanctuary. Jace felt a sense of peace he had never known while drifting through the lawless parts of the galaxy. For once, he was not running, racing, or escaping danger. He was part of something meaningful, something that would last. As the stars above twinkled, reflecting in the crystal rivers below, Jace realized the truth of the frontier. It was not only about survival, it was about creating, protecting, and guiding the unknown towards something wonderful. Lyra reached out, touching his hand lightly. Her energy pulsed warmly, sharing a feeling he could not name but understood completely. Trust, gratitude, hope, all flowing through her glow. "We did it," she said softly. "Yes," Jace replied. "We did." The sanctuary was alive, the future of Lyra's people secured in their hands, and the frontier had transformed from a place of chaos and danger to a space of endless possibility and wonder. And as Jace watched the glowing silhouettes explore, learn, and grow, he knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The frontier would always hold mysteries, adventures, and challenges. But now, he had learned that the greatest adventure of all was bringing hope to the unknown. With the twin suns setting behind the crystal towers, the story of Lyra, her people, and the drifter Jace Corin came to a peaceful pause. But the galaxy was vast, full of wonders, and he knew that the frontier would always call him back, to explore, protect, and discover what lay beyond the next horizon. And somewhere, deep in the heart of space, a faint pulse of light, Lyra's energy, remained a beacon, guiding the future of a civilization reborn.